Afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for being with us today. We're so pleased to have you here and really lucky to be working with Dr. Dori Carlson on this webinar. As the former president of the American Optometric Association and the owner of her multi-location practice, Heartland Eye Care, Dr. Carlson certainly knows a few things about being a leader in optometry, and we're thrilled to have her join us. Dr. Carlson, that being said, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thanks for that intro. As a Revolution user since 2007, it's really nice to be asked to participate with this. So thank you for that. So today we want to talk a little bit about growing your leadership. And I know the promos were about being the next great leader in optometry, but what I want to do is give you some tangibles about 10 ways that you can grow your leadership, even if you're not the boss. So because leadership really isn't about the title so much as it is about how we are about ourselves. So with no further ado, my goals for you today are how to develop your leadership skills, and that at the very end of this webinar, I hope that at least you have at least one tangible thing that you can do and start today about how you can grow yourself as a leader. And before I go on and before I forget, there's a chat function that is there for you to ask questions. I'm going to try to remember to pause because as I go, I'll try and ask some questions. And when I do this live, it's really fun to have those interactions. A little more difficult when we're doing a webinar, but please, if you have questions or responses, just put them in the chat box and Dan's going to monitor that for us. So I know that many of you probably know that I was a past president of the American Optometric Association, but really, who am I? I'm married to an optometrist. We have 2 locations in the northeastern portion of North Dakota. We are the only eye care providers in that corner of the state. We have 14 employees. And the wonderful thing about Revolution is the cloud-based function. When we were looking at something else, we have locations that are 15 miles apart from each other, and charts would physically go from one office to the other office. And that was a big thing for us, is about we were constantly trying to find charts. And so that's what I love about Revolution, is that we don't have to do that anymore, and everything's all in one database. But a little bit about who I am in that respect. I also was the past president of the American Optometric Association, serving it from 2011 to 2012 as president, which is hard to believe that it's already been that many years ago. And when I was done being president and serving on the AOA board, my thoughts were, okay, what do I want to do when I grow up? And so I thought long and hard about it, and I was really blessed with a lot of opportunities because I had met a lot of people during that tenure. And what I really paid attention to was the things that really got me jazzed, things that I thought was fun to do, things that really fired me up and inspired myself. And part of that was leadership. So in 2018, when both of my sons were also in college, I decided to go back to college. And I was a 2020 grad. Yes, remote graduation ceremony, and I got my master's in leadership. So after that, what I've been trying to do is just make it a mission of how can we make the world a better place? And if we all grow our own skills as leaders and as people, I think inherently we can do just that, one person at a time. So my very first assignment when I was in my master's course was to answer the question, what is leadership? And so this was my very first class. I had to learn how to write papers again. Grammarly.com is a really awesome thing I found out. And then I thought, where was that the first time I went to college? And then, oh yeah, that's right, the internet didn't exist. But that, of course, dates me a little bit. But I had to answer the question, what is leadership? And after 21 pages, leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. And if you think about it in that respect, parents influence their kids. Teachers influence their students. Friends influence other friends. Doctors influence their patients. Our staff influences patients. And, it's all about that part of what can we do as far as our matter of influence and how can we grow. And even if you're not necessarily the boss, we'll call it, it's about how you work on your own set of skills, because you are a very important part of the team. And so if you grow your own leadership capabilities, then you obviously grow your place in the team and you have an influence over your coworkers and the attitudes that they might have in the office. So under that premise that it just won't happen, you have to actually work on your leadership skills. So it needs to be more intentional. So we're all planting a seed. And today what I want to do is plant some seeds for you because it starts with you. Nobody else is going to grow your leadership for you. Nobody else is going to do any of this for you. You have to actually be more intentional about it and start to think about how you can grow yourself as a person. And why do we need to work on our leadership skills? Well, like it or not, we're in the people business. My son really wants to be an FBI agent, and he was telling me one day that how much he hated psychology. And I said, you better think about a different career path, because if you think about crime, you're dealing with people at their best or at their worst. So it's all about psychology. And we're no different, really, in what we do, because we're in the people business as well. Interviews, kids, prospective students come in and ask, what's your favorite part of your job? Well, my answer is my favorite part of my job is dealing with people. What's my least favorite part of my job? Dealing with people. And I'm sure that all of you can relate to that, just because it depends upon who walks in the door that day. So how do you develop yourself as a leader? Well, you could Google it. There's lots of things that if you just Google, how can I be a better leader? You'll get a plethora of information that comes out in that topic. But let's talk a little bit about some things here, because in order to grow yourself, you need to know yourself first. So let's start. 10 ways that you can grow your leadership skills. Number 1, know yourself. There are so many personality tests out there. Have any of you done Myers-Briggs? If you have, throw it in the chat. What were you? I think there's all kinds of different. This one says 16. I read once there's like 32 different options of Myers-Briggs, and I can never remember what I was, nor can I ever remember what they mean. INFJ, E something or other, I'm not sure. But out of all of those, it's really hard to remember what the personality styles were, and I can't remember how many times I've taken a Myers-Briggs. Gretchen Rubin does the 4 tendencies. Interesting, they're all kind of on the same premise that there can be about 4 different styles of personalities. I have a friend who does Personality Plus, and she actually uses it with every single one of her staff members. So she knows exactly what type of personality everyone has in the office. And, she claims that she can peg patients and everybody else just because of she has studied this particular one in such detail. Strength finders. I know my kids did strength finders when they were in high school about trying to find what they might be more inclined to be good at as they decided what they were going to do and go to college for. 5 voices exists out there. That's another one. And what this gentleman did is he took the Myers-Briggs and distilled it down into 5 voices instead of all the options that are the Myers-Briggs ones. Sally Hogshead has How to Fascinate, and it's basically how to make your brand so impossible to resist, which is kind of fascinating. I've never heard her talk. A friend of mine has. I think she did some stuff for Essler at one time. And I was told that with the last name of Hogshead that she had to come up with a way to fascinate. So I think that's kind of funny. And when I was doing some research, actually just not that long ago, I found out she's got a TED Talk. So I may end up going and listening to her TED Talk and just listening to how she does the fascination portion of things. There's color perception options out there. Red, green, blue, yellow. There's all kinds of things. But the point is just do a personality test so that you know where you're at. In our office, we do DISC. And the reason, and this just happens to be the one I'm most familiar with, because where I first was introduced to it was actually with Elcon. Elcon, at one time, I don't know if they still do, but they actually did DISC profiles on all of their employees, and then absolutely put it out so that all of their managers or team leaders inside of their organization knew what everybody's DISC profiles were so that they could interrelate, talk to their people that were underneath them, so that they could better relate to everybody and kind of know how to influence them. Discprofile.com is where we get ours off of. I've done a disc profile on myself probably 8 or 10 times. Every single time that I've done it, it all turns out the same. Even when I know what it's asking for and looking for, it still ends up being pretty much the same if you answer it truthfully. I think the assessments cost $90 the last time I looked on this particular one. How we use it is when we're hiring people, we actually have them do a disc profile. Have you ever hired somebody, thought, wow, you pegged this person to be this, this, and this, and this, and they show up on their first day of work and you wonder how in the heck you missed that? Or who was it that you interviewed because somebody entirely different showed up today? So we use it as a tool. It is not what we use to decide if we employ somebody or not at all. But we use it as a tool in our business, which has been kind of interesting. If you delve into it, there's certain personalities that actually work better in certain roles inside of the office. So you could even take it a step further. But again, number one is know yourself, do a personality test. Even if you've done it before and you haven't done one in a while, just go find one online and just know yourself. Number two, work on your EQ. So EQ is what they coin as your emotional intelligence. So not your IQ, but your EQ. And what this is more about self-awareness. Do you ever have your friends that wear their emotions on their sleeve? You know who I'm talking about. They're either like really high, really low. They're all over the board. People who end up crying every time that they end up being in a conflict situation. Those are all emotions, right? And so what EQ does is it teaches you how to look at yourself, about your self-awareness, how you regulate your emotions, your empathy, your social skills, and what your motivations are. And the cool thing with this book is that if you purchase the book, there's a scratch-off code in it, and it allows you to do the assessment twice. So you go online, put in your code, do the assessment, and granted, it is a self-done assessment. So you're judging yourself as far as how you respond to things. So it's not somebody else deciding what you react like. But again, be honest. And so you can do the assessment, and then it can actually tell you where maybe places that you might be able to work on your empathy skills, your self-regulation skills, whatever it might be. You can go through the book, learn a little bit more about emotional intelligence, and then after a period of time, go in and do the assessment again. And that way you can kind of judge, do you feel like you've changed? Have you become more aware of how you come across? It's a great tool for that. But why would you want to work on your EQ? Well, first of all, people with a higher EQ tend to make better business decisions. They solve problems better. They're a little more cool under pressure. They're better at resolving conflicts. They have greater empathy for people. And they listen, reflect, and respond to constructive criticism. And when you're truly listening, you're listening to the person, right? You're not listening to respond. There's a difference. So actually hearing somebody and listening to what they're saying versus trying to formulate a response to somebody, there's a difference on that. That's about having a higher EQ. And studies have shown that 87% of millennials are motivated by emotional intelligence of their leaders in order to help the company succeed. So if I were to ask you, who in here has trouble finding staff? I bet the vast majority of the hands would go up in this webinar. It's a thing, right? So if we have some good people, we want to keep the good people. And so what can we do as ourselves, as our leadership skills, to try and create that retention and make sure that the people that we have that are good stay with us? Having a high EQ is part of that. Other studies. Leaders with high emotional intelligence ratings bring in 20% more annual revenue than those with low average EQ. Kind of interesting. And employees with emotionally intelligent leaders are 4 times more likely to remain in their current employment. If you want to talk about a really big retention thing for your team, have a high EQ score. Number 3, read a book. You know, I could change the slide a million times. There are so many books out there that are so good. I could throw so many on here, but I'm a big John Maxwell fan. So I've got a couple of Maxwell books on here. I'm a big Simon Sinek fan as well. Start with why. People will follow your why. So if you communicate your why, that's one way for your team to follow you. I've done masterminds where I've led people through 15 invaluable laws of growth. So what we've done is we've taken 2 chapters every week, and then we get back and we reconvene. We discuss those chapters and kind of talk about how we can actually make ourselves grow as individuals. So it's a great book for that. I love Know What You're For by Jeff Henderson. He's got a it's a super easy read, and it's a great thing about being for your community, for your team, for yourself. And the big thing with books is that I really think that you should just slowly read them. Instead of like whipping through the whole entire book in a weekend, which I'm guilty of. I'll do that sometimes. I skim through the book. Yeah, okay, that's great. But if you really want to digest it, I really think that you should take it off in bite-sized pieces. Read a chapter, wait a couple days, think about what you just read, read another chapter, or maybe read 2 chapters, and then pause and have some time to really think about it so that you're actually digesting it. And for living in North Dakota, I get a lot of windshield time. So what I do a lot of times is I listen to Audible. I have a whole library in my phone that I plug it into my car when I'm going to have my windshield time, and I'll listen to a book. Got stopped for speeding not that long ago, and I told the officer that I'm sorry, I was so engrossed in my book I didn't realize I was speeding. Got me out of a ticket, told me to enjoy my book. So you never know, might work for other things too. I'm going to pause here for a second. Dan, is there anybody that's said anything in the chat or any comments yet?
Nothing yet. You are good to go.
Okay, just want to make sure. All right, number 4, podcasts. Did you know that the average podcast length is about 30 to 42 minutes? So if you're short on time, don't run and read an entire book. I'd say listen to podcasts. And as I was doing some research for this, the most popular podcasts are true crime podcasts. And so as I was doing the prep work for this, I had a couple of people tell me that that was absolutely true. I have a friend who's just totally listens to podcasts all the time, and she listens to true crime podcasts also. So, okay, but let's venture outside of true crime for a minute. Let's work on leadership skills. If anyone's I want to learn from you. So if anyone has any great podcasts that they listen to with regards to personal development or growth, throw it in the chat. There are a bunch. And if you start looking, there'll be blogs that suggest different podcasts. And I'm going to be really honest here is that I don't listen to a bunch of podcasts because if I had a commute that was about 30 to 40 minutes long, I think podcasts would be awesome. I live a mile from my office, so I don't have any commute time to ever listen to anything. So, there's positives and negatives about that part of it. But if you've got time, these are great things to listen to. Brene Brown is awesome. I've read her books. I've listened to her TED Talks. I highly would recommend anything that she says in a podcast. John Maxwell, I told you he was a fan, so he's got some great podcasts. This Coaching for Leaders has gotten great reviews. So has Truly Human Leadership. I've listened to a few of those. I've got a friend that listens to that one in particular. So there's some really good ones out there that you might be able to find. And the nice thing about podcasts too is when you're actually going to listen to them, you can look at the reviews, you can look at how many millions of listeners follow them, and just kind of going by some of those reviews tell you if it's worth your time or not. So listening to podcasts is number 4. And I'm sure number 5, there's an app for that. There's an app for just about anything. So as I was doing some research, and all of these I've used, not all of them, I guess I should say that, but either I've used them or they've really gotten great reviews, or I have a friend that's used them. Harvard Business Review and Forbes, I think they are wonderful. When I'm doing articles that I write for a column every month. A lot of times I'll look at Harvard Business Review or Forbes. And now Forbes is coming as an email into my inbox every morning about leadership ideas from them. So great, great, well-respected publications to look at. You know, they talk about meditation as a, yeah, medication might work too. Meditation as a great way to kind of think about calming your mind, working on your emotional intelligence and different things. I've personally used Calm. I have a difficult time sometimes with meditation because I try to quiet my mind, but I have a friend who has really worked on that and she really promotes that. So I try to be better at it. I try to work on this, but I have found that Calm is a really great app. I know that some people use one that's called Headspace, and there's some others out there for meditation. There's 1-minute meditation apps. Anything that you want to do that works on your meditation skills, there are some great ones that are out there. Think Up is kind of a cool one. Every day it gives you a daily affirmation. So some positive thoughts, something to think about, things with regards to gratitude and different ways that you can have a positive attitude for the day. And another one that's kind of cool is The Secret of Daily Teachings, which is based upon a book of the same title. And I've read the book. And this particular one will give you a daily teaching. So it's a little bit more like a paragraph. And it gives you different positive teachings to make you start your day in a positive way. So there's, like I said, a whole different kinds of apps out there that will give you different things. There's motivational minutes. I've tried several of them. Sometimes I'll use them for a while and then I'll unsubscribe because I get tired. Then I'll go to the different one. But you can research some apps that are out there that might speak to you. And number 6, watch a TED Talk. So all of these, if you'll notice, are a little bit less minutes, a little bit less involved, a little bit less of time that it takes. So TED Talks, usually about 14 to 20 minutes. Again, some really great ones. I've read ones about, watched ones about teaching in school, what teachers are doing. I mean, there's just so many topics out there. But with regards to leadership, Simon Sinek does a great TED Talk. If you don't want to read, start with why. At least watch his TED Talk. Brene Brown has some great TED Talks. I told you Sally Hogshead has one that I might go look at. There are, again, blogs that tell you what are the 15 most inspiring TED Talks that you can listen to. There is so many things out there with regards to TED Talks. And again, 14 to 20 minutes. A great way to work on your leadership skills. Number 7, create a vision board. Okay, so this might be kind of a different one that you might not have thought of before, but vision boards actually have a place, and there's a reason behind them. Not only just the fun of putting them together. A friend and I actually have gotten together a few times at the beginning of every year. We did this for a few years. COVID kind of got in the way. Life kind of got in the way. But we would get together, have all these magazines all around us, motivational quotes, and we would put together our vision boards. We would oftentimes pick a word for the year that might be our mantra for the year. So with the vision boards, the idea behind it is to do the board, put it together, have the fun of doing it, think about what you want for your goals for the year, but then don't put it away. Leave it out. So find a place that you can put it so that you can look at it. And the idea is to look at it on a regular basis, daily, ideally, so that you can remind you of your goals. It's a visual reminder of your motivations. It's a visual reminder of what your goals in life were for that year. They're fun. They're easy. Obviously, when this was being set up, it was about health, fitness, what we wanted to do for the year, maybe our gardening ideas, reconnecting with friends. You can just kind of look at it all right there in a vision board. So create a vision board. Number 8, keep a journal. The one on the left in this picture is a bullet journal, and they are all the rave right now. Oprah's talking about bullet journals, and the idea there is that they're simple, so that you can just quickly put things into your journal, and it's about establishing your goals and making it just really easy for you to continue with it. That's the big thing. Sometimes we can have these great ideas, but they take so much time that we quickly lose kind of sight of what we're doing, or we lose interest in how we're doing it. I have not done a bullet journal, but like I said, it's all over as far as being the rage right now. Leaders journals. This is one I found on Amazon. 52-week leaders journal. And what it is every day has a leadership thing at the top of the page, and you can talk about how you want to grow your leadership skills. Kind of an interesting way because it kind of guides you through some of the things that you want to think about. I love the 5-minute journal. I've done this one. It usually starts with a page for every day. You write down the date. It talks about what are the 3 things you're grateful for today. What made this day the great day? What do you want to accomplish for the day? So it's meant to be that you started in the morning and you write a few sentences or even just words, and then you look at it again in the evening, like how would you have changed the day? What could have gone better? What was great? It's about what you're grateful for that day again. And then the last one is something I'm actually actively doing right now. This is a Commit 30 journal. And I wrote an article recently about New Year's resolutions. And it's hard when you decide the first week of the year that this year I'm going to do X. And there's all kinds of studies that show that by the week 1, we've already given up X and said, well, whatever it is, just throw in the towel and, well, maybe we'll think about it later and we'll start over next year. Well, this Commit 30 is basically you create the goal for the month. So instead of like trying to figure out what you're going to still be interested in November, it's bite-sized pieces, which is kind of a cool concept. So you create a goal for the year, and then you just keep track of what have you done. And there's so many things. You can look on Pinterest. Pinterest is so great for ideas. You can look at all these different ideas that you can find online, like what do you want to do for 30 days? Drink 64 ounces of water for 30 days. Do yoga every day for 30 days. Move every day for 30 days. Write a gratitude journal every day for 30 days. Give up some habit that you have that you want to give up for 30 days. So I like it as the fact that it's going to be my whole year in bite-sized pieces. I'll let you know how it goes. Number 9, it's always about how you start your day. Now, practice what I preach, not always what I do. I have been known to wear out snooze buttons on alarms. Now, granted, that was when I was in college, so I don't do that as much anymore, but I am enticed to hit the snooze button just as much as anyone else is. So how we start our day is always a great way to complete the day. And the days that I get up and do my morning routine where I'm not rushed, where I can, do my routine and just kind of plan my thoughts for the day are always better days. When I look back at it, I totally believe in this, and it's something I'm striving for, and it may be one of my Commit 30 goals for a month. These books all kind of walk you through it. The 5 a.m. Club is like a parable, and it talks about how you start your day. Do hard things is kind of interesting. I had a friend who talked to me about the fact that every morning he gets up and with another group of men does hard things. And I've listened to him talk about it, and it's usually, I think most of the time it's like an exercise type of thing that he starts out the day with. There may be others that I don't know, and the next time I see him, I'm going to ask him if it's based upon this book, because I have not read this book, but when I found it, I thought, this must be it. So you start your day doing hard things, because then that sets you up for doing the easy things the rest of the day. Make Your Bed was written by an admiral, and it's about how you start your day is how you end up with a better day. And because he's an admiral, what's the first thing you do probably when you're in your barracks? Basic training is you're taught how to make your bed. And if you don't want to read the book, it's a super easy read, but it's a great book. I highly recommend it. But if you don't want to read the book, he actually did a graduation speech. So if you Google the Admiral William McRaven, I think that's how you say his last name, and graduation speech, you'll probably find it. It was a commencement speech that he gave for a college, and it's about making your bed and how you start your morning. And then there's The Miracle Morning. This is also another great book. about how you start your morning. And I know when I've talked to some friends of mine, they'll start their morning with their coffee, their word games, their daily devotions, their exercises, whatever it is that they might have as part of their daily routine. Hal Elrod talks a lot about that. And I was speaking with someone who actually knows him personally, and which I thought was kind of funny, that the irony of this whole thing as we got into this conversation. His wife works for Hal Elrod, and he was talking about the fact that in not so distant future, I don't exactly remember when, but he's coming out with an updated version of this. So I look forward to rereading this book when he comes out with the new edition. So number 9 is how you start your day. And number 10, take a class. So, all right, you can go back and get your master's in leadership. That would be worthwhile, but that takes a couple of years, and we're talking about time-sensitive things here. If you don't have time to read a book, you may not have time to go back and get your master's, so maybe that's not the thing. But I don't know about you, but if you start looking, county extension agency programs, community groups, our Chamber of Commerce's, Rotary clubs have all been doing leadership courses. It's really kind of the cliche thing a little bit right now, almost, but it's about how to make better community leaders, how you can do different things. I've seen things for high school students about how they're teaching high school students how to become better leaders in our community, which can only help, right, with being better people for the future. Masterclass.com is a really cool thing. And they were doing a 2-for-1, so that if you signed up for masterclass.com, they would give out 2 subscriptions for the price of 1. I don't know if they're still running that promo or not, but there's so many things in there. During COVID, my husband was taking bartending classes and barbecue classes on masterclass.com, but there is leadership courses in there as well. And so there might be something on there that might pique your interest for it. It's all about what we can do as far as taking a class. Simon Sinek just popped up in my inbox. Simon Sinek is doing a class about how to be a better leader as well. And so I signed up for that one. I haven't taken it yet, but that's my next one that I'm going to do. So taking a class just can really open some doors for you as well. And my bonus tip is find a mentor. Some of you might recognize Dr. Jenny Coyle in this picture. She's a really good friend of mine. But I think the thing with this is that over the years, I have learned so much from people that I have met. In talking with my colleagues, in talking with other leaders, in talking with people who were state association presidents, just the networking part of what we do. Before we got on this webinar, we were just talking with some of the folks that work for Revolution AHR, and optometry is such a small profession. So many of us know each other, and so many of us end up going to meetings. And what I've been doing the last several years is when I go to a meeting, I've tried to set up a lunch or a coffee with someone that I've admired. And purposely, sometimes I've tried to set up with somebody I really don't even know very well, because I always learn something. And I've tried to have a list of questions available too. Maybe not tons, I don't come up with my legal pad of questions, but in my mind, I might have 3 or 4 questions that I might ask of that person. And over a cup of coffee, it's kind of fun to just kind of connect and realize that we're not so different after all. And sometimes we can learn so much from each other. And I've learned from probably some of you on this webinar, which I think has probably been the most fun. When I was on the AOA board, I think the thing that I missed the most is the people. The people that I met, the friends that I made, just the things that I learned from all of you that might even be on this webinar. So my bonus tip for you for growing yourself as a leader is find a mentor. And I think the thing about this is just the sheer fact that you're on this webinar, you've taken the first step. There's so many things that we can do to grow our leadership skills. Some of them don't take very much time at all, but the fact that you're intentional, that you're on this webinar, the fact that you can read a book, the fact that you can do a TED Talk, the fact that you might load an app on your phone, the fact that you might listen to a podcast is your first step to personal growth. And the more we grow ourselves, the more we grow those people around us. And there's a very different thing between being a boss and a leader. I was doing this part of this talk in person not that long ago, and it was a staff member that said they always hated the word leader. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. Why would you hate that? And it was because they associate it with boss. And I can tell you, I know some bosses that are horrible leaders, or I've worked for some bosses that were horrible leaders, not necessarily in optometry, but other places. And I'm sure you can think of that in your own personal experience. So there's a really big difference between being a boss and a leader. And a leader is part of the team. A leader is making sure that the team is all doing well. And a leader is making sure that we're all successful. And so that's the take home message that I would love to give to you. And hopefully, there's at least one thing on here today on this discussion that you can start today, tonight, tomorrow to grow yourself and your leadership skills. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Taylor, who is part of our Revolution EHR team for some of his sage words and advice.
Yeah, before we jump in with Taylor, there was a hand raised.
Oh, yes.
Wanted to see if we can unmute Shun Tucker. If we have trouble unmuting you, by all means, please type it into the chat, and we will have
Hello.
Dr. Carlson answer that for you. So we'll just give
All
that
right.
1 minute. But in the meantime, yeah, Dr. Carlson, really appreciate you sharing these tips. Developing stronger emotional intelligence and leadership skills, so important when dealing with patients. And we really appreciate your time here this morning. So if we're able to unmute, I believe you are unmuted. If you have a question, by all means.
Hello.
Hello there. You have to speak up a little bit, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm in the library right now.
Okay.
Yes, I'm
I can
actually
hear
in
you.
Chicago, and I want to say thank you and thank you for the classes over here. I'm in Chicago, Illinois, and it's just saying thank you for wonderful just to be able to donate your time. Me myself, I'm an advocate, and actually I just graduated from the internship with the Chicago Lighthouse. Completed my first 300 hours, and I'm looking to learn how to work with more with people in the community who are underserved.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you
that's
for doing
Awesome. We
that.
appreciate that.
actually, and
All
also I'm a
right.
vet. I'm sorry, I said I'm also a veteran also as well. I just want to say thank you.
Thank you for your
Well,
service.
yeah, thank you. And we appreciate you joining us today.
No problem. Thank you.
So if we don't have any other questions, I'll jump over to Taylor to give us a quick kind of run through. Obviously, Dr. Carlson, as a longtime Rev user, this might be old information for you, but we'd love to have Taylor run through the importance of having a really strong EHR system and practice management system within your practice, and how that can empower everyone in their roles to really better serve their patients. So, Taylor, over to you, sir.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan, and thank you, Dr. Carlson, for those wise words of wisdom. Um, Myself, Taylor, I've been working here at Revolution EHR for roughly 5 years now. I'm an account executive on the team here, and I'm just further going to speak on what Dr. Carlson said about leadership and just providing the tools to succeed in an optometry practice. And that's what Revolution EHR really does for you. You're giving your staff the tools to succeed in their day-to-day operations. And um, since we went over in our last webinar, which you should check out on our knowledge base, last time we spoke with Dr. Carlson, we went over the exam portion. This time we'll go over on the tools to succeed on the optical side of the software, which is right here, the icon that we provide for you on the Revolution platform, which basically this would be the screen that the optician lives in. They can use any device that really can connect to the internet to do their day-to-day operations. It could be a Windows, it could be a Mac, it could be an iPad. We see a lot of opticians use iPads now to go through an optical order here, where everything I always start with starts from left to right. It starts anew, it gets approved, goes into vendor processing, vendor shipped, and yes, we ship directly through to labs. We have integrations with VisionWeb to make this happen. It's a great partner of ours that you guys could utilize with the Revolution EHR platform. So once it gets shipped to the lab, gets directly shipped back to the office and then verified and picked up by the patient. And we can do a quick one right now by going into an eyeglass order. And when you send over an RX information from the exam lane, it populates right here for the optician to start working on while you're finishing up with the patient in the other room. So they can click here, select the lab of your choosing. In my example, I have Essler Labs here. So when I select a lens, this is Essler's online catalog available through VisionWeb. So basically, you can select this left eye equals right eye button right here, and then you have various lens options, tints, coatings, and all the doctor's recommendations that you recommended in the other room will be sitting right here. Once you've selected a lens, you can go right into the frames. Selecting a frame here, you can manually add these frames, or another partner in this space is Frames Data, great partner of ours. Definitely utilize that as well and look into that on our partner page. But so, for instance, if you selected these Ray-Ban Luxottica frames, you would have an inventory here at the bottom of the color, the code, the eye, the bridge, how many are left in stock. As soon as you select that, all that information populates here. Ready to go as soon as it's approved. It ships directly to the lab, Essler Labs in this example, and then you can work into the billing processes right here. You have billable items here on the left, payers and invoices here on the right. I could look here, Margaret Smithback is our patient, and I can assign that over to Margaret Smithback. As soon as I assign it over, it puts together a quote, an invoice for her. Basically, when you authorize it, you have an invoice ready to go for that patient to pay here on the Revolution EHR platform. In this space, we have a great partner as well in Rev Payments. You can utilize Rev Payments to take payment processing right then and there in the office and receive payment with Rev Payments. That really is an optical order front to back. What also piggybacks onto that optical order is your inventory tab right here. Your inventory tab is a great tool where you can use barcode scanners. You could also add products manually here in the top right corner by product information, pricing information, min-max quantity information, which ties directly into your reporting module as well. You'll notice an inventory module here. Great tool for adding, receiving new stock. This is really the optical platform portion of Revolution EHR. Definitely providing, circling back to Dr. Carlson, of providing the tools to do a optical order process. This is provides your leadership and them being a leader in their own roles, providing the glasses or contacts through an optical order with Revolution EHR. So thank you again for your time. I'm going to turn it back to Dan, who will close out with some questions that have come up.
Yeah, thanks so much, Taylor. Really appreciate that run through. We're just so dependent on technology these days, and patient expectations can be so high. It's really critical to have a strong platform to really make everything run smoothly. So if you have questions, we have a few that have come through in the chat box. If you have any questions, please put them in the questions section. But a couple that have come through for Dr. Carlson. What steps do you take with your staff to make sure they're pursuing some of these self-improvement tactics you've discussed here today?
Great question. Do as I say, not as I do. That's not true. I know some staff or some offices that have done masterminds. In fact, I led masterminds for a lot of staff members from other OD's offices. I haven't done that with my staff personally because I'm their leader in this practice. And so I've tried to do other things because I don't want to force something down their throat of something that I truly believe in. So I've kind of done it more in a quiet fashion. We work really hard on culture. We really work hard on trying to grow them. And when we do reviews, what can we do to grow you? So that's one of the questions. So whenever somebody comes up to us about wanting to attend a class, maybe it's one on generations in the workplace, we've encouraged that. One of our staff members actually mentioned the fact that they want to go to a course all together with all of us. So we're planning actively to do that and close the office for a day and travel so that we can all attend a course in Minneapolis-St. Paul area. So we've done more hands-on things. We've actually brought all of our staff members to New York City one year. We closed the office. We all attended Expo East. So we've done more things in that respect, not so much as having them read books and different things, but we've been supportive in other ways.
Yeah, that's outstanding. Thank you for that. And Taylor, a question came through for you. Is the Revolution software all in one, or do I need to switch between a bunch of different windows?
That is a great question, and we get that all the time when you move from another platform of some of our competitors. And no, you do not have to switch from different window to window. It is all in one. So you have your practice management and your EHR accessible with one click. Any
Perfect.
other
Thank you. And
questions?
what? Yeah, one last question came through for Dr. Carlson. What do you think is the best thing you've done to develop as a leader?
Um, Perhaps baptism by fire. Serving on the AOA board or the leadership in my state was one of the things that probably developed me the most as far as leadership is concerned, because you just have to learn how to do it and what is effective or not effective, because you can be either or, right? The other thing probably is just I've made a concerted effort to actually learn and grow. I did my master's. I still take courses online. I've gone to other people's seminars. I've gone to John Maxwell events. And so I guess the big thing is being a lifelong learner is probably the best thing that I've ever done to grow my leadership skills.
Great. And again, thank you so much, Dr. Carlson and Taylor, for your time. This is recorded, so if you registered through with this email address, you'll receive a video recording of this webinar to your email address. So again, thank you all very much for coming. Look for another invitation to Dr. Carlson's webinar in March as well. So another webinar with Dr. Carlson in March, which is going to be great. And again, thank you so much, everybody, for coming with us, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.